After releasing my recent video on what I think should be in Football Manager 26, understandably, opinions about that video were split down the middle. On one hand, you had some people who really agreed with my ideas and thought that the ideas I'd presented would help evolve Football Manager into the future as part of this brand new era that we're about to witness. On the other hand, there was, of course, some opinions that said, look, Tony, I'm afraid you really can't touch this game. It has to stay how it is, and this is how we play it, and this is how we want it. Ultimately, it doesn't matter what Football Manager 26 looks like. Sports Interactive cannot win. So what do I mean by SI can't win? Well, having looked at the comments on that video and the comments we receive on the FM Show podcast every single week and the comments I get when I'm streaming live on Twitch or on YouTube or on TikTok or even things that I hear and see on Twitter or in Discord, what I've worked out and what I've seen is that there are so many players of this game playing it very, very differently. So when Sports Interactive are trying to make a game, they've got so many people they need to please. For example, we have over here the hardcore gamers, the ones who've played for 30 years. They have played every single version from original Champman all the way to a current day. They are the ones. They think it's their game, right? It is their baby, and nobody should touch their baby, and it should never, ever, ever change. Chances are they're my age. They're 45. So that's part one, the core audience. There's also this middle audience, right? This middle audience who are kind of Champman 01 or 2s, I reckon. So you've got there sort of maybe the 30-year-olds or something, possibly 35s. They are more adaptable to change than the core gamers, I think. And then over here, you've got the younger viewers, right? The younger audience, the newer players of the game who've maybe only been here since potentially the pandemic. They've been 5 years on the game, right? Maybe we'll probably presume that a lot of them are younger, so therefore they're getting into Football Manager right now, and they need to be serviced as well, right? So how Football Manager have now got to work at Sports Interactive, they're going to make a game that satisfies the people who've been playing the game for 30 years, the people who've been playing the game for about 15 to 20 years, and the people who've been playing for 5 years. On top of that, you've then got to make a game for people who are happy just playing on mobile. And then you want to make a console game because some people don't have a laptop that's powerful enough to play Football Manager now. So they're going to play on a console. And do you know what? While we're here, the console is not a dumbed down version of Football Manager. It is a different version of Football Manager. Champman 92-93 is not a dumbed down version of Football Manager. It's a different game. So some of the things that I was talking about on this video, right? Okay, were graphics. Now, I know graphics is a hot topic, okay? And believe me, up until recently, I was in the camp with this lot over here that didn't want graphics touched. Because if I was to play Football Manager on my own, on my laptop, in my house, without the consideration of me being a streamer or a YouTuber or making any sort of visual content, then you're right, the graphics probably don't mean too much to me because I'm used to being invested in this game and I'm creating stories, right? A lot of it is in my head. I didn't play with a 3D match engine straight away when it came out. I used to play 2D. I used to play text. But do you know what? The comments here that we get from, I don't want a new match engine because I play 2D. What's the key word there? I don't want this. I play it this way. Well, in this little pot over here, is probably a really small pot of players. And you might think that you're the large pot, you're not, you're the small pot. In the small pot of core players is the people who play things like journeyman saves, build a nation saves, one club saves. They're going to do over 10, 20 seasons on a game. That is the core players. And it's a small percentage of what we are going to call a niche game. It's a small percentage. It's not the majority of players sat over here. This is the smallest pot we've got. The small pot of people say they don't want change and they don't want evolution in terms of the visual elements, because why would they have their game? Why are we trying to advertise it to these people over here, these new young people? Why do I want to see new players playing my game? Let's think about this from a business perspective, right? If you've got a core, however big or small it is, it's going to be small, but if you've got a core audience that are aging and have bought your product consistently for 30 years, right? They will buy pretty much whatever you put out. If you've got a massive pool of potential people over here that could buy your product and buy your product for much longer because they're going to be around for longer, then it probably makes some smart business sense to start looking at what they want. and start investing in how they consume media, in how they consume content, in how they consume products. What are they spending their money on, right? Yes, the disposable income's over here, but the long-term income is over here. And of course, I know I should be in this patch over here saying, do not change my beloved game. But I'm aware that this over here is where any business has to look. And I know that me personally, I'm sat over here in this core group of players. I know I will buy the game every single year, regardless of what's in or not in it. And Sports Interactive know that. They've got our business. We are loyal customers. We are going to stay. Over here, all this potential business that has grown the game to massive levels that have never been considered before, that is where Sports Interactive really need to be putting on all their attention. And I'm sorry if that upsets this group here. It's here. This is the long-term vision. No business just looks at the here and now only. They've got to look at the future. They've got to look at working out how they can keep money coming in year on year on year and growing the product. So in addition to the graphics, then of course we get to things like the UI. Now, again, some of what I said, I did caveat in the video, I'm not a graphic designer. When people say, I don't want this game to look like a console game, it's not going to look like a console game. It has to change. And no one's saying that the PC is going to be dumbed down. Nobody is saying this. The UI has to be more simplistic and more user-friendly and more clean. I don't know whether it's possible for everything to map perfectly across on a mobile, on a console, on a laptop. What you need to do is to try and make something that looks very similar. So when you pick up the console, it looks very similar to what's on the PC. It's also very similar to what's on the mobile. If it can't be exact, fine. It doesn't matter. But the way the world's going, it needs to look cleaner. It just does. And then, of course, if there's options for customizable skins in third parties, that's fine too. Allow the modding community to have whatever they want to do and get involved in stuff, because the modding community have got some great skins. But there's a lot more console and mobile users than there is PC users. So again, let's look from a business perspective. Sports Interactive have got to start really focusing their attention there and really catering to these people, because this is a big market, okay? And that's what they're going to look at. They're going to look at big markets and bottom line, because remember, they missed a year, right? They missed FM25, so they need to try and top up some of the money that they didn't get. Okay, so that's the UI covered. I also talked about attributes and how they should be taken out, and as you can imagine, that was received, well, you know exactly how that was received, because people, of course, are conditioned to play with attributes. That's how Football Manager has been since its inception, and I guess even things like FIFA, like Madden, they all have attributes attributed to them as well. And my point was it was tied into something that a lot of people say, that they want the game to be more realistic. What is more realistic than taking attributes away? Because no real Football Manager has attributes. Maybe they should have more specific attributes, more general attributes, but I also think more descriptors in there, and the attributes should be hidden behind in the back end. And I know that you can have attributeless skins and you can manipulate the attributes and change all the colors so that you can't see them. I know all that. But you should have the option at the start to present it like that. That should be the default. The default should be there are no attributes, and then you should have the option of adding the attributes back in. This is how I think it would work, personally. Right? This is my opinion, and I know I can change the current game, and I know I can add skins. And for the people who said, why don't you play attribute masking on? I play attribute masking on anyway, because that's how I think the game should be played. I've now moved towards attributeless completely, because that's, again, how I think the game should be played. But that's me. And remember when we went back to earlier about how I want and I want? That's where the conversation's getting. Ultimately, because I want that, doesn't mean that's going to happen. Because somebody doesn't want the graphics to improve, doesn't mean that the graphics shouldn't improve. Because somebody doesn't want the matchday experience improved, doesn't mean the matchday experience should improve. Because somebody doesn't want overpowered tactics, doesn't mean that overpowered tactics shouldn't work. Because someone wants transfer values changing, because they want media changing, because they want this, because they want that, because there's a lot of conversations happening all at once. And Sports Interactive are having to try and go through them and work out which ones are actually relevant and which ones are actually implementable, useful, and would serve the most people at once. Because they've got to try and make a game for people who play the game for 50 seasons and people who play the game for 1 season or 3 seasons, as Real Madrid, Liverpool, PSG. How do you make a game that covers that spectrum? That's really difficult. That's really difficult. And for everybody who plays this game differently, there's got to be multiple ways of playing it. We've said in the past that Football Manager is the ultimate choose-your-own adventure. And in a sense it is, because of how much work has to go in to allow it to do that. So when we talk about things that we want to see improved, some of it does come from a personal bias of, this is a game mode that I really enjoy, I'd like to see it done better. I don't see the argument for, by spending time on the graphics, they're losing something on immersion. It's not an either or. It's not an either or. Sports Interactive are not going to sit there and go, right, for 2 years we are only focusing on graphics and ignoring everything else. That's madness to think that's the situation. Okay? They will focus on as much as they can, and they know that when FM26 comes out, it has to wow people. So there's probably going to be more focus on visual elements right now because of the fact there's been 18 months of Football Manager 24, because there's not been an FM25, and because FM26 has to make a statement. So I would expect there to be a major focus on the graphical elements. That's not to say that the immersion will be overlooked. If anything, they know the immersion has to be worked again, because whatever we think, FM26 has to be massive. 99% of the hardcore will stay, irrespective of what happens. The middle group, some of them might leave, some of them might not. The younger group, they're the ones that they're trying to catch. I think it's going to be a tough order. Whatever happens, however Football Manager 26 looks, sounds, feels like, it's going to upset some people. It's going to please some people. But ultimately, it's not going to please everyone. I think that's where we are. I don't know if that's really sort of cleared anything up or not, but it certainly feels like I've been able to explain a bit more about how I feel. Let me know what you think. Have I summed up the feeling, possibly? Am I wide from the mark? What do you think? Let me know in the comments. And yeah, let's keep talking, and maybe we'll know a bit more as time progresses. So yeah, hit the subscribe button. We'll be back with another video very shortly, but leave some comments. Let me know what you think. And yeah, speak to you in a little bit. All the best. Bye now.